Okay, joining me now is Anna Paulina, U.S. Air Force veteran and vice president of Bienvenido U.S., and she's here to talk about the toll this border crisis not only takes on Americans, but on the border crossers as well. And she has called for better Hispanic representation in Congress, cracking down on border security, and a whole bunch of other things. Thanks for joining us, Anna.
Thanks for having me on.
For all the talk of our immigration laws being anti-Hispanic, I noticed the Democrats are not talking about being Norway anymore because they got the news that Norway has big welfare but also really restrictive immigration. So let me read to you Article 33 from the Mexican Constitution. Foreigners are those who do not possess the qualifications set forth in Article 30. That's their basic guarantee of human rights. They are entitled to guarantees granted by Chapter 1, Title 1 of the present Constitution, but the federal executive shall have the exclusive power to compel any foreigner whose remaining he may deem inexpedient to abandon the national territory immediately and without the necessity of previous legal action. It also says that foreigners may not participate in the political affairs of the country. So you have this power they've given themselves and to their president to basically deport people without due process. The previous Article 32 lists all the jobs immigrants can't do. And we're told that our immigration laws are anti-Hispanic. What do you call that?
I mean, everything that Mexico is doing is something that we should do here as well. The problem is...
Did you ever think you'd say that out loud?
No, initially, I actually was a huge supporter of Obama. I, at the time, thought, for what I realized with what the Democrats do is they get these candidates, these cool candidates, right, for argument reasons, and then they give them this message that they want them to preach. But I always agreed with President Obama's immigration policies, of which pretty much follow the same exact.
You mean the first iteration when he said, I can't just change the laws, not the second iteration when he did.
President Obama had made it and specified that the reason why people should not be coming here illegally is because of the dangerous process. All of these rules that even Mexico has itself is to protect the people of Mexico and the people that would seek to enter that country illegally from the dangers that happen during the crossings. And that is what people are continuously forgetting to talk about. And everything that Mexico is doing is well within the right of a sovereign nation, and we should be doing those same things here as well. Well,
that's the next question. When did it become racist? All this time we've had immigration laws. All this time we've deported people that have violated them. All this time we've said do something the legal way, do it the right way. Now, all of a sudden, to expect people to do what generations of people have done coming from all around the world to the United States, to expect them to follow our laws, that is now considered bigotry.
It's not bigotry, it's not xenophobic to understand that there's a process that we need to all obey, whether you are black, white, Hispanic, wherever you are from in the world. The point is, though, is that Hispanic Americans leading into 2020 are the voting minority, and that is why you've seen, ever since President Trump took office, this target that's really pulling at the heartstrings of Hispanic Americans, saying that this president doesn't like you, conservatives don't like you, Republicans don't like you because you are Hispanic. That's not true. There are so many Hispanic Americans that are conservative, whether they are technically Republican or not, whatever they might be. We understand the process. We take great pride in the fact that we have that cultural heritage, but we also love this country and understand what's at stake. And make no mistake that organizations like Bienvenido that are going out there into the communities to get information out there, not just in English, but in Spanish as well, they're afraid of that, and that's exactly why they're censoring us to the magnitude that they are. And I remember I was telling you a little bit earlier about the tweet that I put out, really calling out the Hispanic caucus on the lies that they were putting out, saying that this administration does not like Hispanic Americans or Hispanics in general. But when in actuality, Obama deported so many more, into the millions more than President Trump did, and there was no mention, not one peep from them at that point in time. So it is really just politics, it's propaganda, and if we together don't find our voices to stand up against this, we will lose an election, but we're going to lose a lot more than just an election. We're going to lose this country because a country is established by its borders and its sovereignty, and that's what's at stake right now.
Let's talk about propaganda in the media. Are Hispanic voters the latest victim of propaganda in the media, whether it's Univision, Telemundo, or activist journalists like Mariana Atencio? I don't remember this effort to get into these Border Patrol facilities in 2014, when the kids in cages images were really from the Obama years, not the Trump years. You have Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez staging this event where she's hanging onto a chain link fence, and really on the other side of that is a Ford Explorer, not a bunch of children, not Dora the Explorer. So you have this effort now to convince people that the administration is making women drink out of toilets, torturing children. You even had some members of Congress saying, I don't trust Border Patrol agents with teenage girls.
They were saying that this was a manufactured crisis initially by the administration. And then they turned around and basically said, oh, wait, that this is an issue, but they cherry-picked different topics. They went down there with camera crews. And I actually remember when I had my wake-up moment and I realized that this was propaganda. I was sitting at a hotel room in Florida waiting literally for the next day. My friend was getting married. And at this point in time, I was working with an organization called Veterans for Child Rescue. And this organization worked to combat child sex trafficking at the U.S.-Mexico border. This is not a partisan issue. They don't care if you are Democrat or Republican. This is the only thing that they cared about. I remember sitting in that room, and at the time, I was still watching CNN. I didn't want to believe that journalists, that people, that pundits on news would lie or put information out like that. I still wasn't awoken to this fact that propaganda exists and that they're using it actively every single day to the American people. I remember sitting there and hearing the commentator on the television talking about how there was a train that had been stopped by the Mexican police authorities in Mexico City, and it was stopped because these migrants were coming in from South America, and they found that there's MS-13 gang members on this train along with women and children. And the minute I heard gang members and women and children, I automatically peaked up because of the fact that in the trafficking organization, it was where I learned that this is a form of organized crime. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. By me then tuning into really what the broadcaster was saying, they brought this train to the U.S.-Mexico border, even though officials had stopped it. They had raised money to bring this train out, and then they put their camera crews on these women and children being separated. I will never back down from the fact that I still believe that to this day, women and children should be separated because you have this aspect of trafficking. That is not because I want to see families ripped apart. It is because you have a third of children that are brought over that are shown to be biologically not related.
The DNA test.
Exactly. And when you have these situations, when you find that children are actually being rented to come across because people are going to be exploiting this loophole system, and then you see what the Hispanic caucus is doing, or someone who has such a strong voice like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, that she would knowingly deny this and knowingly put herself in a position where she is actively fighting to allow this to take place. Or you have someone like Kamala Harris who will refuse to answer these questions. These are women that are in the most powerful positions in our representation in the world, right? The United States is one of the most powerful nations in the world, and they're actively ignoring it because it feeds their agenda. These people don't care about what happens to these children. They don't care about these migrants that are just here looking for a better way of life. If you cared, you would realize that when people come here illegally, that they are not given the American opportunity or the American dream, that they're working under the table, that they're targets for organized crime, that they have no access to our banking systems, they don't have access to our medical care systems, and they don't have access to law enforcement. So what way of life is that?
I would say to anyone who's a Hispanic voter that you have a choice to make. You can follow the left here, and that's open borders and single payer and all this stuff that we know is going to collapse. Or you can ask yourself, my family came here legally. Do I want to turn the United States into the country that my family voluntarily left and legally entered the United States to be away from? Do you want the United States to be like that country? Because if you do, you're free to go there, right?
That way.
Or do you want it to be this thing that your family came here looking for the American dream? Well, the American dream is not an open border and a welfare state.
No, it's absolutely not. And being someone that actually grew up in the welfare program, that's something that a lot of people don't know about me. But there is, I was able to break the cycle because I joined the military. That was the way that I was given a job. It wasn't easy, it was hard, but I was able to attain and help my family because I worked my butt off for it. There is no glory in being given something by the government. The government is not ever going to do better for you than you can do for yourself. And where government fails, people will prevail. And so these are the key concepts that we like to remind our Hispanic brothers and sisters of when we go and talk to them, and when we are using social media to get that messaging across. Right now, messaging is key, and there are so many people that forget why these basic, simple rules are in place. It's not to keep people out, it's to prevent a very bad world from hurting people on both sides of the border when they're coming here. And by the way, yes, Mexicans specifically make up about 50% of the illegals in this country, but there's also other people from other parts of the world that are coming here through our southern border, China and Africa, that are not vetted, that are coming from locations that have high instance of terrorism. And I think that's probably another segment. But the point is that right now, if you believe that they've all of a sudden just flipped a switch and started caring about Hispanic Americans, you're wrong. They voted for these same policies years prior. It is because Hispanic Americans now have the power to change the election in the 2020 election, because we are the largest voting minority.